Oh, yeah. You didn't think we'd do this, right? You didn't think we'd get back together. Step one, open up the box. Step two, reach. Hey, it's inside the box. It's your boy, BC Brian Campbell. It's Rafe Bartholomew. You're looking at his mustache. Oh, Rafe, what in the 1980s is going on right now above your lip?
I did this for you, my friend. I did this for the listeners, the viewers of the BCE, the Brian Campbell experience. We talked about it a little bit a couple weeks ago when we caught up, but it's real, and I do rock this from time to time. I wish I had shaved a little sooner so I don't have this like razor burn on my chin. But I don't think the viewers are tuning in to look at me. I hope not. At least some
Yeah,
might.
I
You
hope
never
not.
know.
You never know. I love the little scrapings you got going on underneath there. Not a
It's
ginger at all. I
you
just
can
looked at,
make you can make a good gravy out of that.
yeah, it's your bowl, actually. Yeah, there you go. No jokes left unturned. We're back, Rafe. We were going to be back last week and recap Canelo, but I had some technical difficulties in Dublin in Dana land over there calling some fun UFC boxing. Um, but we're back at it. And I don't know what this is going to look like besides you, me, and your razor burn just getting reacquainted with the sport that you used to love. So, Rafa, you've watched Canelo, correct? You've watched AJ, correct?
I've watched AJ. I've watched Canelo. I mean, last week, you tell me, look what you did to me last week, missing that opportunity to record. I watched Trevor McCumbee.
Oh,
I
wow.
watched the Lara Garcia fight. I was gung ho back in it, and for what? All for naught. And believe me, let's not talk about some of those things. We don't need to force it. But oof, I did these things for you, and this is how it worked out.
Yeah, DSG, I think he should finish, Rafe. I'm sorry to say that, unfortunately, though, but the best hat ever from Rafe Bartholomew, the Angel Garcia. We're going to
I,
get into that as well. I'm just so happy that we get to do this again. The old SOC, ITC, ropes cast folks are fired up. I'm just happy that you're back in this ridiculous and absurd sport again, because this is kind of where you belong. I know that you can at times be this like Northwestern graduate scholarship winner slash Manhattanite, but underneath it all, you're a proper McSorley's dirt hole like myself too. So I'm glad that you're back where you belong.
well, and as like you said, this mustache says it all. Dirt hole, here we come.
All right. All right. So I guess this is the name of our business, right? I asked you, you got a better name. You never responded. We get inside the box. That's what men do, right?
Just stick with it. I'm not going to work on it.
Okay. Wow. Looking at that stash reminds me of Corey Erdman, who I work with this weekend. By the way, a very good racing play-by-play guy. Who would have thought?
He's been great on those cards. I mean, I catch some of the highlights. I have not been watching all of his DAZN, south of the border exploits, but I hear him on Chris Mannix's pod pretty often. He's always been like one of the most earnest and straightforward representatives for the hardcores. And what I really, really admire, I wasn't planning to come on here and rub my mustache all over Corey's mustache, but I admire that he stuck with it, man. He was in boxing before me. He was a
Yes.
hardcore before me, and he's long after me, and it's finally paying off. He's getting these opportunities. I didn't know that if I actually have never met Corey in person. I did not know that I was twice his height. I saw that picture of you, him, and
Yes.
Raul Marquez, and that was a great one. I wanted to be the fourth step up in that ladder.
People said that picture looked like the power bars on your cell phone for your
That's
service. You know what I
perfect.
mean? It was escalating. They did that purposely, by the way. But yes, you are taller than most people in this business. You're like a gangly 6'4", correct?
Yeah, at this point, yes, I'm taking I'm taking the extra inch. I always just stayed
Oh,
at 6'3". That is my height in bare
that's what
feet.
she did. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, she always takes it. But I at this point in my life, I like the way 6'4" sounds better with my walk around weight these days. And as in basketball, which was the one sport I played half decently, you usually take that extra inch and a half. So
Damn
yeah,
right.
it's mine
People
now.
forget that you grew up on Smush Parker's AAU team.
I
People
set
forget
a lot of picks for that man, and he had a lot of threes.
that. Go Gauchos. All right. We're back in the
I
box.
wish,
This
man. I
is
wish I played for the Chos.
Yeah, I wish you did too. We're back in the box where we belong, and it's awesome. There will eventually be soundboard opportunities. We are angling in that direction. I'm talking with my producer, and we're gonna get there. We're gonna get back there, even though I just broke in Dublin the old soundboard that used to connect with the iPad that had the sounds on it. Don't ask me though what is on my USB stick. Okay, do not ask me. But yeah, there's a throwback for the people. Hey, let's get into the big headline right away, and that's AJ goes down in a big way. First and foremost, Rafe, you getting back in after being out a little bit, and you tune in Saturday afternoon, presumably on DAZN pay-per-view, and you watch more than 98,000 inside Wembley. Not exactly 80K, Carl Froch, but did this, the moment, forget the fight, how about just the moment, did that rekindle the old love for heavyweight championship boxing and this damn sport once again?
Well, look, as someone who lapsed into casual status in recent years, the one division that, like a true casual, I kept up with kind of was the heavyweight. So I had seen AJ's fights against Usyk and the comebacks against Helenius and Ngannou and all that. So I felt more connected with this than some of the other things I'm coming back to in the sport. Because it is a heavyweight, a big heavyweight fight, you find a way to watch it. And the 98,000, I mean, we've seen it before. That stuff,
We've not
unless you're
seen
there,
that,
it doesn't
maybe,
move you.
maybe Greg Haugen against Julio Cesar Chavez inside of Azteca. What do you mean we've seen 98K before? Where?
Can you tell the difference between 80K and 98K?
I mean, not necessarily, but it sounds impressive, right? Turkey
All I
was
know is
flying it.
that if you get if you get that many people in Wembley, someone is going down from a peach of a right hand.
Oh wow! Or the Bonesaw Brigade. We'll find out if you're a journalist there. I cannot wait to get your thoughts on that gentleman, as Dana White calls him, Shake Turkey. He, yeah. Ron Stander ain't got nothing on that guy. All right, first and foremost, dude, it was a fight worth getting fired up about. It was two heavyweights who were reborn and rejuvenated, and really two guys that had pretty large setbacks in the past, had kind of like, I don't want to use the term manned up, but had found this sort of, I mean, like AJ's 5-day silence retreat would have been something you and I would have been dissecting at like the deepest detail. He came back an ass kicker, but so had Dubois. So I certainly expected that this would be a fight where maybe both would hit the canvas, that we would see really the best of what heavyweight championship boxing in a soccer stadium can offer. What I never expected was that Daniel Dubois turned into an absolute cyborg and just walked into oncoming traffic and was like destroyer. How shocked were you at what we ultimately saw Saturday?
Maybe it's from being away from the narrative for a little while, but I can't say I was super shocked. Brian, I thought back to what you first said back in the day when we were talking about Ed J coming up, fighting the likes of Prince Charles Martin to win his first paper belt, eventually beating Vladimir. And we always saw that, you saw pretty early, probably from the first time he was rocked against maybe Dillian White in the fight that he won against him. That first, ever since then, you could tell AJ was chinny. He did not take punches very well. And he got, we'd seen him rocked a few times, other than getting up to beat Vladimir Klitschko, which kind of, look, if you're Vladimir Klitschko watching AJ fall apart horribly against Ruiz after getting knocked down, fall apart terribly after getting his bell rung, and just really, really hurt in that first round against Daniel Dubois. How upset is Vlad that his brother Vitaly was in the corner back in the day saying, no, take it slow, be careful, and let him back into the fight? Because the truth is, the wheels come off when AJ, when things turn for AJ, they turn hard left. And that's sort of what, and you said this at the very beginning when he was first became a champion and starting his title run. You're like, Rafe, he's just going to be a fun champion, fights at a high level, but very vulnerable. And he's going to be in these fights where he's the favorite. He deserves to be the favorite, but he could lose because he's fighting someone who has pop or who's quick enough to land.
Takam rocked him back in the day early on in that fight. Like it's always touch and go with AJ.
Povetkin rocked him. I mean, and I think Daniel Dubois was one of the handful of AJ opponents, even though AJ has fought almost everyone. I mean, he has he has taken on all comers in a way that certainly Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder didn't earlier in their careers. But he hasn't fought a guy with the size and the power and kind of the athleticism that Dubois has, and the chance to land, to just jump on him early like he did. It was a great strategy, and he landed that shot that basically put AJ on the road to ruin from round one.
No doubt about it. I thought it was such a brilliant tactical idea. And by the way, his trainer was like having health issues and wasn't really around during fight week. There was a lot of talk about like, will Dubois be fine? I don't know. It's kind of crazy because I just think that we had like the right narrative, but the wrong fighter ultimately. Like, I'm not going to lie. I was already writing in my head, what I thought the recap or the post-fight column was going to be. It was, hey, AJ, he's been up and down in the past, but he's figured out how to activate his inner destroyer in ways that he never could against Usyk, which I thought, looking back, those were just two really bad stylistic choices by AJ to try to outbox Usyk, especially after the first fight. I know it was close and on paper, but it's like to try to out chess play the greatest chess master in the heavyweight division just didn't seem right. We're like, be the destroyer, be the 6'6" linebacker who stumbled into the boxing ring. He'd done that of late, walking through Otto Wallin, walking through Ngannou. Obviously, in hindsight, after we just saw with Dubois, you can start to pick apart those wins. But it's like we had the right narrative that this rejuvenated destroyer was here. We're the wrong guy. I was shocked after having seen Dubois, quit against Joe Joyce despite the double, broken eye socket. As Roy Jones once said on this podcast, you know how hard you have to hit a man to break his eye? He didn't deserve the quitter label, but he went through hell on that. And even the Usyk fight, dude, I know there was the controversy of maybe he knocked down Usyk with the borderline body blow, but he got knocked out on a jab later in that fight. And people were sort of like, man, this guy's never going to get it. Even with his own comeback, which was the stoppage against Big Baby Miller in a close fight, the walking through Ergovich, dude, I never would have guessed that he could be that version of himself on Saturday. Tell me if I'm wrong. If he could produce being that version again on Saturday, he has a shot to beat every heavyweight in the world.
Sure, he has a shot. We've already seen him he was competitive at parts of that Usyk fight. Yeah, in the same way, that's what Usyk does. I mean, he's not going to get out in front. He's going to nick rounds until you're tired and either pull away at the end or in this case, knock him out like he did with Dubois. So but his style, look, it puts him in every fight because he's got the attributes and he has always had those. In fact, and if these recent wins and fighting through the adversity against, Hrgovic, who was landing on him early, with that sort of very textbook big European right hand, and getting through those fights, if that does get Dubois over the hump, puts him on this next mental level where, sort of the effect you see in other sports where once you win a championship, then you sort of forget how to lose a little bit, or you know how to pull out you know how to find that extra gear when you need it. Then he becomes a really scary, dangerous, a heavyweight to be reckoned with, someone who could really take over after this generation of 35-year-old heavyweights cycles out in the next few years, and we're looking for a new king. It could be Dubois, but we also there's a styles make fights aspect to this where sure. It's AJ and Dubois happened to have a very good recipe for exploiting AJ's biggest weakness, which is, look, it's not as drastic, but he's got a little bit of the British Amir Khan disease. He doesn't take a shot well. He's on Q Street. He's on Queer Street right away.
You said it. I've been to that neighborhood. I've seen that.
I forget that. No, that's not what it means. That's not what it means. That's not what it means. That's why I use it. You got to look up the QED, not the Oxford OED, Oxford English Dictionary. They'll trace it back for you. And it's
Isn't that where Yusuf Mack used to train, or no?
Well, that was a different street.
Sorry.
That was Avenue Q, I believe.
They got similar street names in many cities. I forgot about that. There's MLK Boulevard in every major city. Yeah.
How was the MLK in Dublin, by the way?
Oh, it was great. It was great. It was very historic. Yeah. Look, we didn't expect, though, even with AJ's vulnerabilities, he was a destroyer. Dubois was a robot destroyer. I mean, I know his personality is to be very reserved or almost look like he's not there. Dude, I mean, are you not entertained? He was like this, like barbarian they cut out of stone. I really want to get your take. Is that sustainable? Was this I mean, we can see it in the heavyweight division. You can look like a world beater one day and get sunned the next day. One punch changes everything. Are you a believer in Triple D, Daniel Dynamite Gennadievich Dubois right now?
I think he has, top 5 level talent in the division going forward. I'm projecting that out to people who rise up. I think that his prime, he will remain in the championship picture throughout. And if there isn't if someone really good doesn't rise up, he could be the best of that mini generation. I think we still need to see, though, there's the way that, like you said, heavyweights match up with different styles. I wouldn't crown him off this one performance just because it just worked. Everything worked so perfectly for him against AJ. In that, I heard you say this the other day on Morning Combat. After that hit the knockdown in the first round changed the fight. We don't know how a different version of this fight plays out.
Oh, Rafe, I have to interrupt you and say, would you say it's not dissimilar to a really big middleweight championship fight we saw at Madison Square Garden that time, where I know the knee never didn't ultimately respond, but Miguel Cotto hit that equilibrium shot on sexy Sergio Martinez in round 1, and he was never the same the rest of the fight.
That wasn't even Sergio Martinez walking into that ring. He did not. He was wearing someone else's knee. He was wearing Alex English's knee or something. It was too late. Like he just didn't have his legs, and it wasn't the same fighter. I will never believe the equilibrium shot.
All right, but Ruiz versus Joshua then is the right comparison. That one equilibrium shot early, AJ survived another 4 or 5 rounds, was never the same. What is your take on the entire AJ experience on Saturday? Because the knee jerk is to say he's done, he's chinny, he's washed, he just got his ass kicked in this monster fight that was billed as this big comeback for him on the title level. But you may have heard me on Morning Combat. A lot of people getting in my DMs being like, man, I mean, are you willing to continuously provide that level of fellatio for this man? I was bought in on the toughness that he showed. He looked like Vlad against AJ. He just suddenly refused to lose. Now, ultimately, he did lose, but he hurt Dubois in round 5 leading up to getting knocked out face first. I think we are seeing a new AJ that I'm not really worried about the damage of this fight. People think I'm wrong, I'm crazy, that I'm in love with this man's, his body is a wonderland, but, I've been around him a long time. I haven't seen this spirit from him. He may have been vulnerable his whole career, and he may have gotten up before, which he did. Give him that credit. He didn't get up shaking it off, willing to let's go. I mean, dude, he fought like a man on Saturday.
Yeah, look, AJ is one of the, I keep going back to his top bloke brethren from the UK, Amir Khan, in that I don't doubt his heart at all, but the connection between his punch resistance and the rest and his ability to control his body after he gets knocked down, after he gets hurt, is not good, and it doesn't recover well. He doesn't recover as well as other fighters after they get hurt. A lot, I'm not even asking him to be Juan Manuel Marquez, able to get up from, the hellacious shots from Manny Pacquiao and Michael Katsidis, all one of the greatest recoverers we've ever seen. I'm talking about just being able to weather the storm and get back and make it back into a fight after a couple of rounds. The manning up that you described, I didn't read it quite the same way from AJ. I thought that's the mode he goes into when he's hurt. It's this weird sort of goofy fake bluster. He's sticking his tongue out, talking to the crowd. It's like he loses his focus. He gets too loose. And I think that yes, he's trying to get back into the fight. Maybe it's something he's consciously trying to do to psych himself back into it. But at the same time, it leads to these lapses and mistakes. And then every time he gets touched for the rest of those fights, he's back, his legs are buckling, he's holding, he's having trouble recovering again. I guess, so I didn't see it as this incredibly brave performance. It's the kind of to me, but I wouldn't be in your DM saying he's toast, stick a fork in him, he's done. To me, this is a Denny Green moment. He is who we thought he
Oh,
was.
get out of
He
here.
he is who we thought he was.
He
I'm saying
took fight-ending
I'll
shots.
repeat it like Denny Green.
He took fight-ending shots repeatedly, got up like nothing happened, and then wobbled and nearly had Dubois in peril in round 5. I'm just saying, I don't know if I've seen that. I know he came back against Klitschko, but if you look back, there was almost a flash element to that knockdown. Some of that was during a time where AJ, I think, was still getting used to fighting 12 hard rounds with all that muscle, where he would have these moments where he'd gas. This wasn't the case in this fight. He got like posted up and the kind of shots that would KTFO him in real life in most situations. And if you heard him between rounds in the corner talking to Ben Davison, he's like, "All right, we got him now. We got him now." I'm just saying that, like, that's a spirit I haven't seen in him before. Seriously, that I think he's going to be okay. I really do. I really think he's going to be okay.
I do look. I don't think I think that he will be okay and that he could win another heavyweight title depending on how the belts shake out. I could see him winning. I could see him beating Dubois in a rematch if he, basically if he doesn't get hit with that, if the fight doesn't change in the first round and he has a slightly better performance. I would say I don't want to jump too far ahead into rematch talk, but like the one thing I would not feel good about if he start a strategy that I wouldn't want to see AJ do is the old Seth Mitchell versus Jonathan Banks. I know this guy can knock me out, so I'm going to be a different fighter than I am. The strategy that AJ used against Andy Ruiz in the second fight, because Danny Dubois ain't Danny unless AJ can send Daniel Dubois to Southern California, have him eating at the Downey Pizza Company, have him recording videos with like dankperp.com, whatever weed thing that Andy Ruiz, like, unless Daniel Dubois goes off the cliff and doesn't know how to handle success, which doesn't seem to be the case. I think that he's not going to be able to outbox him like that. He will have to take the center of the ring and impose himself. He just has to do it without taking the shot that hurts him first.
Well, to clear up the rematch talk, I saw Dan Rayfield reporting. Team Joshua, Eddie Hearn, and AJ were saying we have a rematch clause. Then you had Frank Warren, Dubois' guy, saying no, you don't. Dan Rayfield has clarified that AJ has one more fight on his Riyadh season deal, but it doesn't have to be the immediate rematch with Dubois. But the good news, if you want that fight, is Dubois is coming out and saying, "Yeah, hell yeah, I'm willing to beat him a second time. Let's go."
Riyadh season, baby.
If Turk wants
Riyadh
it,
season.
Turk 182 is going to get it. It's wild, man. I mean, this was one of those, I think, really good developments where the guy we knew had a shot to win without question, but not the guy that we were sort of framing our narratives, meaning you had to be thinking, okay, AJ is going to win this, and then let's see who wins Usyk-Fury II. But because this is boxing, and whether it's led by politics or just Dubois saying, yeah, I'm willing to fight him a second time, we might really have a final four here, Rafe, to get back to undisputed status. Do you think the winners of Fury Usyk 2 in December, AJ Dubois 2 if they do it in early 25, will meet in some giant stadium fight next year, and we'll get back to one belt, one face, one name, undisputed championship?
Oh, I think it's a decent chance. I mean, that's probably a question we should ask His Excellency Jab Turkey Al Sheikh, because it really comes down to how is he willing to spend, the whatever budget he's got from the Saudi government to put on that type of fight. Seems like he's serious about it. Yes. Seems like he's not slowing down, but that's where that money would come from. And I think and he's had a whole lot of success making great fights across divisions, but especially in the heavyweight division. I mean, we had the night of heavyweights and all these, and they've all been fun. So they've been good events. So I think that as long as that money is there, it's possible. I'd say that the Dubois Joshua side of that equation is a lot more reliable to want the next fight than the winner of Fury and Usyk 2, just because both those guys they seem like they're a little bit more free spirited in their own ways, where Tyson Fury could, just decide to go fight an MMA guy, do who knows what,
I have a
and
fight with
then
the Thailand guy.
yeah, I have a fight with a Thailand guy, and Usyk is always seems to be on the verge of just being like, I've accomplished everything I could in this sport and moving on, and I think he's the oldest of the four.
Without question, yeah, but they are all seem to be right around that 37,
What if
mark, which means not done, not ancient, second chapter, right? This the end of the we're in that gray area between the end of the second prime and the beginning of the sharp decline. But man, it's fun right now. I mean, I wish we were potting when
we are, brother?
oh, we are potting right now. I wish we had been potting around Fury Usyk 1. I mean, that was earlier this year. That was one of the greatest heavyweight title
It was
fights of all
incredible,
time,
man.
right? It was great.
It was incredible. Usyk, I like I wasn't the earliest to Usyk, but when I saw what he was doing, around the time of that World Cruiserweight Classic, whatever it was,
WBSS, baby.
the Sauerland Kinahan Tournament
Richie
of Roses.
Swiss. Richard
Yeah.
Schaefer was a big part of that. Okay.
When I saw what he was doing against that level of opposition at a pretty good moment in the cruiserweight division's history, as I love me some cruiserweights, I was like, oh no, this guy is the truth. He's not exactly what you think he's gonna be, but he has, he just has it. But even then, I didn't think that he would necessarily be able to pull it off against opponents as big and
Knocked down
dangerous as
Fury?
AJ and Fury were, and the way he has risen risen to the moment every time he's been challenged in those fights. He gets pushed back. He's been hurt. I mean, that what is it, the fourth round when Fury just looked like he was going to take over and cruise from there. Like he could land in the jab at will, whipping in those scary little uppercuts. And I was just like, oh man, this is Usyk found out exactly how far he could take it, and the limit
Exactly. But
is Fury.
size
And then he was like,
matters.
no, it's not.
We thought size mattered. I mean, look, let's not forget this Usyk heavyweight experience. He was kind of life or death with Chisora, right? Like it was kind of there. And then he
That's
did
not
get
true. That
kind of.
no no no
There
no
was a
no no no
physical
no.
tax
Please
that he had to
please
pay.
do not be rude. Please do not be rude with me.
Listen, Kostya, there was a physical tax that he had to pay in that fight. And I think we all thought, okay, but when you fight the boss, the 6'9" boss, who's probably really only 6'6.5", speaking of fudging on our height, Joe Rogan, who's really probably like 5'2". I did. That's how brilliant he is. I could have imagined Usyk outboxing AJ twice, which he did. I think some of that again is AJ, who switched trainers for both fights, just didn't have the right demeanor. You remember AJ's big meltdown after the second Usyk fight? It was embarrassing for him.
He fought
But
well in that fight. I don't like
to
Usyk is a
think
great
that
fighter. Anyway,
no, he did. But to think that Usyk was going to go in there against Fury and say to himself at some point strategically, the only way to win this is to go through him and knock him down, then dude, it validated how early you actually were on Usyk, which is similar to how early you were on JJJ over there, Gennady Golovkin. I mean, you were day one. Well, not really. Mark Ortega, okay, I think was watching grainy videos of Triple G in Panama before any of us. But man, I mean, I can't even believe that happened. Dude, when you went away, suddenly Big Bang Zhang Jalel it turned into a legitimate force. What happened in this boxing world? I mean, damn, this is wild. So look, the whole point I think is you can rank it however you want. But this heavyweight era is stupid fun. It really is. It's a special era. And people are already getting on me saying, how dare you compare it to the 70s or 90s? There's not as many legends. There's not as much depth. And that all is certainly valid to a certain degree. But Rafe, if you've been in and out on box, but you're still watching the casual high level of the heavyweights, if we go back to Fury beating Klitschko in 2015 to now, is it only, am I recency bias only because the Klitschko era was so boring and so defraud of any, that's probably the wrong word, but like just missing any drama? Really? Seriously? Like you're like, maybe David Haye could leap in and land one punch. No, the toe got in the way. He didn't. We had nothing to watch during that era. This heavyweight era, you never know what's going to happen. And that's what this is all about. Come on, feel it.
look, all I got to say is, did previous heavyweight eras have Kubrat Pulev having interesting video interactions with reporters, eating sushi off of them, or the name was sushi. I can't even remember. There was a lot. No, I'm more on your side than not, Brian. One, most of us and probably most of the audience, right, is not really old enough to remember far enough back. I mean, even I was around just for a little bit of the great 90s heavyweight era,
Yes.
but I didn't understand it. I don't feel it like I feel this one, because now I can I've followed so much of it, and some of it professionally, some of it casually, and it feels like there it's deep. I mean, look, here's a good way to tell how deep it is. Put your arm all the way down in reach all the way in that hole. No, it's just that we keep getting surprises like this, that fighters who because there is so few opportunities to judge a fighter's true quality in boxing, right? You can't fight every week, you can't play every other night, and so you try to take all the information you can from a loss like Dubois going down, deciding not to continue against Joe Joyce, who in that era, how scary was Joe Joyce? You talk about a cyborg. That, I mean, like, until Big Bang Zhang unlocked that chin, which, I mean, look, go back and watch that Dubois fight. He landed some hellacious shots that did knock Joyce off his sort of Terminator walk a little bit, and might have loosened that up for fighters down the road. But anyway, to judge, we judge Dubois or whoever has a loss over the as best as we can, using that information, because it's all we have. It's the only time they compete. They're fighting twice a year in many cases. But then when they get an opportunity like this and it goes completely not according to script, that kind of shows you that there is a lot of talent. Big Bang Zhang is one of those guys who we thought I'd written him off. We used to walk by him in the casino in Vegas, and he'd be like, Rafe, that's Zhang Zhilei, the Chinese heavyweight. I was like, I don't give two shits who that is.
You're like, when's he gonna
He's
fight?
never going to be in a real fight.
Fight Tyshawn already. Fight the Donger, please.
Yeah, he already looked like he was 50 years old. I don't care. And
remember when he stopped, when he didn't drink what he didn't know you're supposed to drink water when he's training, and then he knocked that dude down 3 times in the first round and settled for a draw. You remember that fight? Like, there's been some wild turns in the Zhilei Zhang era.
But the division is really deep. It's been extremely fun. That we're getting, especially, I mean, say what you with the infusion of foreign investment from Turkey Al-Sheikh, that means that a lot of these fights are now on the table. We're seeing them more and more, and honestly, if we keep seeing this level of fight, we're gonna get like Usyk-Fury II, and that could lead to, I mean, it's that level of fight is what makes an era great, and what allows whoever separates themselves in that era to build the legacy to actually be considered as great as 90s and 70s heavyweights. So I think it's happening.
You need depth, you need parity to some degree, I think, and we're having that. You need superstars, and I think that's the real muscle of this era that puts it on the map. You have AJ selling out soccer stadiums to record levels consistently, sometimes regardless of opponent. You have another stadium type guy in Fury. I mean, Fury put, what was it, 94,000 in against Dillian White when he knocked him out with that uppercut? I mean, like, we have like legitimate global superstars. Then you've got the Swiss Army knife in Usyk, who's probably the best of them all, both historically and in terms of skill. And then you got a nice jumbling of sort of hot and cold guys. Right now, Dubois hot. Joseph Parker hot again, right? He hasn't been that hot since he was sponsored by Burger King down under.
I was going to say, since he was knocking guys out on top of the Burger King until he beat Andy Ruiz on a Burger King ring.
But here's the key question. One of the pushbacks on this era can be, how can this be a great era when the two most marketable fights, AJ versus Fury, AJ versus Wilder, both completely missed their windows and never happened?
Because they weren't the two greatest fighters of the two better guys are Fury and Usyk, and when they got opportunities to respectively fight those guys, they beat them several times, 3 times if you really want to count that first draw that only 2 members of the media considered a draw.
I'm still sore. Who was that? Dan Raphael and Lance Pugmire.
Big Lance.
I'm still sore at both of them for scoring Wilder Fury 1 a draw. Oh, hold on. We got some Reggie Jackson. Are you a big fan of the cats? I know you're a
Oh,
dog
I
guy.
do. I have a dog. My wife is allergic to cats, so but I grew up with
Ah,
cats. Yeah, they're my. I mean, that's my
I met your
original.
dad's cats. Did they pass your dad's cats?
The second one is yeah, they're all dead now. They're all
All
gone.
right. I'm sorry to bring that back up, but
Yeah.
I guess what I want to say
He is from
is
Ohio.
it's very true. Your dad does have that Midwestern
Oh,
blue collar, and he's got a
well,
stash too. To be very fair, he's got a hell of a stash. My point was we could still get these matchups. We actually still could. I
mhm.
mean, AJ's going to fight Fury eventually, non-title, old guy, super sloppy, or for the undisputed championship. That's going to happen. Do you think there's still a possibility, and it may have to be extra sloppy, that we get AJ versus Wilder at some point?
Yeah, why not? That was the first thing. One of my close friends texted me right after the fight. He's like, this point, and he's someone who doesn't really have the doesn't hold AJ in the esteem that certainly you do, mean that or as high as I do. He's basically one of these guys like AJ was always whack. He's
Yeah.
never good, which is I think quite harsh. It's maybe a little harsh. No, it's too
That's too
harsh.
harsh. No, no, no,
Yes, yeah,
no. I don't
yeah.
think you should finish.
Took me
Yeah.
3 tries. I found it. It's in there somewhere. But yeah, no. The first thing he texted me is like, only thing left for him to do is fight Wilder. Like, and there is some logic to that, and I don't think anyone would really object to it. Even as bad as Wilder has looked, you can still sell it as, well, this is the match that we never got, and it ain't the right time. But what the heck? Like, let's make some money, guys.
I mean, we have had some phenomenal wins this era. Fury upsetting Klitschko was massive. Usyk beating Fury was massive. Um, who's what is Wilder's trainer?
Jonathan Banks.
No,
No. That's Jipper G's favorite. Malik Scott. The
Malik Scott getting Kate Abdo was a huge heavyweight win. I mean, she
I
changed
don't
her
know,
last
man.
name.
I was up on Malik Scott's Instagram way before he met his wife, or at least before he got together with Kate Abdo, and you could see he had a special way.
Well, can we be honest? Because some people have been like, "Why do you care about this marriage? And why is it a
That's a good
shocker?"
question. Why? What is
I
wrong with
go,
you?
did you ever follow Malik Scott's Instagram between the years of like 2016 and 2019? It was OnlyFans before OnlyFans, right?
Well, I mean, it was a lot of implied nudity, I would say. He never crossed the line, a lot of suggestive shots with that cigar, though,
I
man.
mean, I feel like I've seen the man's pipe. I feel like I
He's
have.
a,
Okay, maybe I
he's
haven't, but I feel like I have. Big win for the people there, for at least for Malik there. Shout out. No more PBC Kate on Kate anymore. But wow. Yeah, so heavyweight rules, man. It's really going to be fun. Would you say you are jacked up for Usyk-Fury II in December? Like just or are you like, hold on, I've got a hard on for better beef Bivol first that Uncle Turkey's giving me, then I'll focus on that.
I think you can. I mean, I'm young enough that I can go twice. I will get it back up in time for
Oh wow. Oh wow.
for Usyk-Fury too. It is it's no, of course. I almost can't believe it's happening so fast after the first one. And on some, it's what it's scary for. I mean, as a guy who you're almost rooting for Usyk to walk away on top. Like don't tempt the bag. And I kind of think that could happen. I mean, like the first fight was really competitive. There were moments when Fury looked like he had him figured out, and he's Fury is as much a winner as anyone in the sport, maybe except for at least in the division, other than Usyk, and he's going to come back with with something different and force Usyk to figure him out again in a different way, and there'll probably be a couple more of those adjustments. I think it'll be great. Look, that's the other we were talking about rematches leading up to this another unification fight for all the 4 belts. What if Usyk and Fury have a great fight? Fury wins, and we're talking about a trilogy. Isn't that more important historically of a legacy fight between those two while they still have a little bit of their primes
Yeah, that would change the
than
discussion.
getting one more paper belt?
If that happens, I want Dubois versus Martin Bacoli, because that guy suddenly flew on our radar and is like, he can bang. Let's see what we got there. I wanted to bring back Usyk in on this question. Like, we never really thought he would get here. Now, you remember when I stopped Eddie Hearn that time and said, "Hey, Eddie, Usyk's coming and he's going to beat your boy AJ." And he's like, "No, no, 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 Joshua too big." And
No,
then he beat
mate.
him
No, mate.
twice, right? I
Never,
never
mate.
could have really believed that he was going to do what he did to Fury. If Usyk beats Fury a second time and does walk away, there are those times when you can walk away and you could argue that your resume is untouchable. If Roy had only walked away after beating John Ruiz, right? Like you'd probably be arguing whether he's the pound for pound greatest fighter of all time. Like seriously, right? He would have had one loss at that point by DQ that he avenged by first round knockout. But it doesn't always go that way. Yes, Calzaghe walked away at 46-0. Yes, Floyd navigated that probably better than anyone else in terms of the control and the performance. But if Usyk should actually retire undefeated, 2 wins over Joshua, 2 wins over Fury, the undisputed heavyweight championship at one point, the undisputed cruiserweight championship after literally going through probably the deepest era in that division's history, like unbeaten Garcia, unbeaten Myris Brightus, who then sold his soul trying to get a Jake Paul fight. We never talked about that either, by the way, over social media. I know that like you don't always love the, well, what's his rank historically now? Because it is hard to do that unless you are Corey Erdman or the beard Patrick Connor and you've studied the grainy black and white tape and you've got the chalkboard and you've got your working ranking with, I've got Harry Greb here and I got Joe Gans right here. I mean, it's tough to really know, right? But like Usyk would have as strong of a case to literally crack the top 10 or top 5 or 6. Right? I mean, like because you could do him head to head in your mind at 6'3", being an athletic southpaw genius boxer, and talk yourself into him beating or being competitive with everybody in history. True or false?
Absolutely. The same way we've talked ourselves into Tyson Fury being competitive, or often thinking, man, I might have to I can't believe it, but I might favor Fury. How many times have we said that to ourselves in mythical
Sure.
matchups? And so yes, the more I agree, and I am not the type to be like, I think he's number 7, and here's why. But like the thing that really sticks out to me is Usyk is going to be one of those fighters who, when I'm, teaching some little booklet, one of my kids someday about the sport, hopefully passing on a little bit of love, but not too much so they don't actually try to work in it, love for the sport. He's going to be one of those guys. I will say this guy was the greatest I saw, one of the very greatest I ever saw fight ever in any division. And I would only say that about a handful of, I would say it about Roy too. And you know what? Let's just, like Flip says to Tom Shepard in Above the Rim, they
Yeah.
can't take away what we were, man. They can't take away what you were, Roy. The rest, that after the cliff, it doesn't matter. They can't take away what you were. There's going to be those fighters who it's just like, I don't even win or lose. Like they're the ones who Usyk is one of those fighters who I will want to share with the people I love most because he's that special.
I'd love to hear that. I still imagine the picture I took of you in LA in the Hollywood Hills in 2018, where you're wearing the Usyk hoodie, standing up, flexing with the Hollywood sign behind you. That was some great time. I miss the days of you living in Eagle Rock, LA. Do you?
I do, but I'm living lovely here in Metro Detroit, and you're welcome to visit anytime. We can, I can take you to what's left of the Heidelberg Project. We could go to the Big Joe Louis Fist. I mean,
Yo,
we got
we
some
should.
options here.
All right, I got an idea. Okay, because I want to
Hobo
see.
Arena.
I want to see what your palace in Auburn Hills looks like. But what if you and I decided to play one-on-one hoops? Right? I got to favor you, even though I'm still kind of active and not fully washed. Loser has to drink Flint tap water.
You can't make Flint water jokes. That's
I
real.
made a
That's
Flint
real
joke to
business.
James Toney on air and he laughed at it. Okay, that was a victory.
That is a victory. Especially, I mean, would you have made it if you were Jim Gray standing next to James Toney?
No, I didn't make it to Andre Durrell in person. I felt that was a little bit too rude. All right, I take all that back. Yeah, I missed your LA time as well. A shout out to Michigan right there. What do you think? And we didn't get into this in our first checkup on this channel, but I think the people that love you and love what we had and have again want to know, what the hell do you think about Turkey al-Sheikh, Saudi Arabia, and this era that we are deep in the midst of, where our dream fights are getting made, But what comes with that is the Saudi Arabian national anthem. Um, Rich Murata selling his soul. You know what I mean? People are going to win trips to Saudi afterwards. Like, it's weird as shit, right?
I don't know, man. The scales have long since fallen from my eyes when it comes to look. We Eddie Hearn told us long ago, and people have been saying it long before him. Boxing and ethics don't mix, do they, mate? And like boxing is not the only sport that the Saudi Royal Investment Fund is involved in. It's like, would it be nice if Turkey Al-Sheikh treated media better? Sure, but like, it's not like boxing media is going to go in there and do anything interesting most of the time in the first place.
Hey, Jake Donovan. Jake Donovan was like, "Yo, f off, bro. Peace."
Look, good for. I mean, I also respect people who stand up to that bullshit because I mean, I would want to if I were in still working in the sport. But when it comes to like where's the money coming from? Before Turkey Al-Sheikh, the money was coming from Daniel Kinahan, who is, you know, one of the FBI's most wanted.
Sure.
We're no longer going to say, oh, he's never been convicted. He still hasn't never been convicted, but he is, you know, identified by almost every government in the world as the leader of a super cartel supplying drugs to much of the world, who is yeah. You know, how many allegedly, sure, how many, yeah, in any case, that's where the money was coming from before. Now it's coming from another place that you might not, a source that we might not feel great about. I'm just going to tune in and enjoy the fights. And you know, at least Turkey Al-Sheikh can show up at fights and do goofy stuff. He's an easy character to laugh at, to talk about. He makes news. He does this. He holds hands with his boys. I mean, you know, I can't. It's just, what are you gonna do, man? You either watch the fights or you don't. And if you do, you know, like, did you cash the check? We're all cashing the check in some way. So let's, you know, shut up and do our job.
People are always like, what about sports washing? I'm like, we're willingly accepting sports washing in exchange for the really big fights. That's sort of my baseline. We're all accepting it because we're degenerate boxing fans that want to see the best fight the best. To me, it's just when it goes beyond that. And I don't mean necessarily bonesaw beyond that. I mean, that's severely beyond that. I mean, more of like some of the moments we've seen. I don't mind the national anthem as much. The His Excellency thing, I think, is a little, that's a little aggressive, but, you know, I mean, whatever, right?
I mean, I enjoyed, you know, watching him at ringside. You know, the way, first of all, he's sitting there next to Tyson Fury. He's got, this was a great like tableau to watch during AJ and Dubois. Did you see Conor McGregor and Terence Crawford sitting next to each other? Can you imagine?
Haney too. Haney.
Yeah, but they were not. I mean, there was Crawford talking to Haney at points, doing standing, but seated during the main event, you've got Conor yapping in Terence Crawford's ear, and I just can't. What does Terence Crawford say? He's just like, yeah,
It was Cristiano Ronaldo and Conor at a recent card too. Yeah, it's bringing odd bedfellows.
Who's the worst person? Can you imagine many people worse than McGregor to be seated next to at ringside like him, just like, holy fucking shit, man! Oh, fuck.
Yeah, the party never ends though, I assume, when you're hanging around McGregor though, so that's pretty wild.
Can I think
Turkey gets down at all? I mean, I don't want to speak
in what manner, here, man?
Based on, you know, religious preferences in terms of like, I'm sure he doesn't drink, but do you think he gets down?
What in what manner, man?
I don't know. Maybe I should end this conversation.
Look, I saw Taken. I mean,
what do you think about his search history? That's really what I want to know. I'm kidding.
He could be governor. But Brian,
got his job back.
I can't. I got to stop this. I won't forgive myself if I don't bring this up.
Ooh,
and this has not been something I haven't heard this talked about much because the fight itself was so dramatic and exciting, and the result changed the whole narrative of the heavyweight division. But holy shit, what's that guy? Marcus McConnell, the referee, that was a masterclass in terrible UK refereeing. I mean, this was incredible. That third round where he's the end of the third round where he misses the knockdown, where AJ gets clipped. puts his gloves on the ground, gets back up, doesn't call the knockdown, almost lets AJ gets Tommy Morrison against the ropes by the end of the round, finally calls the knockdown. I mean, and then the fourth was just a work of beauty. I mean, he calls off the fight by accident, when he meant it was just a slip. I don't even think AJ stumbling around at the beginning of that round was a knockdown. And then, it was so crazy. It reminded me of the great UK refereeing performances like Howard Foster stopping George Groves too early against Carl Froch in their first fight, or whoever. I think it was Terry McConnell carrying Nathan Cleverly back to the corner against. Oh, what about the low blow? How did that was both the ref's mistake?
It's not a blow.
Oh, that was a remember the Dubois blow in the fourth round?
Yes.
That was a serious low blow. And both it was the ref's mistake, and I think AJ, if he had his head with him a little bit or had thought a little bit quicker, could have done more with it. But like, he didn't even offer. He didn't say to AJ, "You got 5." Like, we don't like it when a fighter takes 5, but Lord, if any fighter needed the 5, it was AJ in that fourth round.
Yeah, and he's just like,
he didn't even offer. He's like, "All right, fight on." And AJ, if AJ had a little more Bernard Hopkins in him, he would be on the floor for a 459 and then ready to go.
Are you talking more about when Chad Dawson body slammed him on his shoulder and he probably could have gotten up? Or
he took more than 5 minutes for that one.
When he said, "No white boy will ever knock me out of the ring," and then that happened. By the way, I missed you last year when B-Hop went on that run of going up to people and saying, "Meet me in the men's room." You know what I'm talking about, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you remember when he almost killed Elvis Duran's kid and was like, "Meet me in the restroom, please. Let's go to the men's room and talk about this."
Look, if we've been around boxing and some Golden Boy fight weeks, or for those of us who were actually lucky enough to cover Bernard Hopkins' fights, like you've been around him. He's an intense guy. He'll corner you and talk to you and really get his point across for a long time. And you're just along for the ride. And I've always enjoyed
smell the musk. You can feel it.
He's like, he gets like, tip to tip with you and is ready to, and you better be listening. In any case, you don't get the sense that Bernard Hopkins is a person to play with in that manner. And it seems that some people effed around and found out last year.
That is very, very, very true. I do want to get your thoughts, because we missed it last week, on the return of Canelo and heel Canelo, but I want to bring back in the greatest, maybe the second greatest hat you ever gave me, because I still wear the gypsy hat you gave me for Tyson Fury. So let's be honest. Angel Garcia, father of Danny Garcia, was such a huge part of our early potting, of our, like, I want to say our prime box fandom, which was when you and I, early 2010s, when you and I had, first touched sides for the first time and saw each other's work. And man, we were so into, at that point, the ridiculi of the sport. And Angel Garcia was that. People forget he kind of got canceled after saying the N-word a bunch. Remember that? Even though Edgar Berlanga is now tweeting the N-word regularly.
And now Teofimo Lopez is, look,
yeah, I mean. So is that a New York thing? Can you say the N-word if you're from New York, regardless of culture, or can only Hispanic people from New York say the N-word?
Look, I think that I haven't, it's not my, and I was sort of raised to know that, both by family and just my environment. But yeah, you hear it. I mean, you hear people of all races, creeds, and colors.
No.
Dropping it casually in our East Coast cities like New York.
This is Danny's
Philly.
night, please. This is Danny Jacobs. You're the boy. What I really wanted to ask you was, look, it was a horrible fight. Danny Jacobs coming back from a 2-year retirement. He fought Erislandy Lar for the middleweight title at WBA, which is a weird fight to begin with, but I talked myself into the idea of these two aging names who were such a key part a decade earlier of our, like, prime fandom / oh my God, we're journalists who get paid to go watch these fights. Like, it was a golden era of us watching Golovkin and going out to Jimmy's Corner in New York after the fights. And it kind of came to an end disastrously, right? GSG barely shows up. He gets dropped on a jab that didn't even touch him after about 7 or 8 of the worst rounds you've ever seen. Crowd booing. And Angel, who just had a stroke in April and recovered, has to throw the towel in on his son. And by the way, his son, DSG, let's put some respect on his name, always had an amazing chin, took the best of Matisse. Like, love him or hate him, DSG was a big part of that era, our fandom. We went to his post-fight party in Brooklyn that time, and Ricky Lopez was hitting on your girl. I mean, we've had some
almost
times.
Mr. Steal Your Girl.
Did you feel like it was almost like watching the end of an era, the end of us in a way? Because like Angel was such a center point on who we were, and all of the guys from that era are now aging out and they're exiting the sport. But seeing Danny exit that way and have Angel have to throw in the towel, it just felt like the party, the 2014 party, it's finally over, dude.
Look, I'm glad you had that moment, that this fight stirred those feelings in you, but it's been dead. It's over. You know, they shouldn't have brought it back. You know, Danny Garcia hadn't fought in how long? We didn't need to see it.
Was it a worse reach than when Berto rematched Guerrero on the final Showtime card in December?
I have no recollection of that.
Good
that's
idea,
news
yeah.
to me.
Yeah, okay.
That is it a worse reach? At least those guys were did they bang? Did Berto and Guerrero bang again?
Kind of, but it was sloppy. No one went blind trying to do the shoulder roll this time. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was kind of unnecessary.
Look, there are worse ways to go out than the way Danny Garcia went out. I mean, we've seen many of them, almost
Chris
every
Benoit,
way.
Edwin Valero, yeah, way worse, way worse. Ways,
yeah, well, there are those ways, but even without getting into the criminal aspect, you know, he was barely, you know, it didn't seem that badly hurt. He just wasn't really ready to fight that night, and maybe he came in, thought he was, and found out real quick that he wasn't. Erislandy Lara is not a bad person to be in the ring with, to when you find that out, because he's not going to hit you that much. You know, if you're going to let him coast and win rounds, he'll do that with you.
He's okay with that. He was
more
than fine with that.
It was. If you're a Danny Garcia fan or you just want to be generous, you're like, well, you know, he went out with a nice payday, good for him. If you're annoyed that he got that decision over Mauricio Herrera, and that he, you know, defended that belt, or was it? I think they took the belt off the line for the Rod Salka fight, but they put it on Showtime, and it was just and it turned out as bad as could be imagined.
He got a gift against Lamont Peterson as well.
Oh yes, yeah.
He did.
I mean, Lamont, he was a tough luck fighter.
He was. I respect him a lot more in hindsight. There were certainly a couple of those years where we were questioning the soft matchmaking after he had been matched so tough, Amir Khan, Lucas Matisse, all that. But I guess that's all water under the broken bridge. Let's talk stashes. How fired up were you to see this new character, Trevor McCumbee, arrive on the scene and get a running start and throw spaz combinations and knock Caleb Plant down? Holy crap.
Yeah, look, I mean, it was I loved every second of it until it turned and Caleb Plant started putting the business on him, and poor Trevor McCumbee had no idea what to do with a fighter crowding him and beating him up on the inside. But I mean, who wouldn't want to see more of that guy? Throw him in there with some of these young guys who don't know how to box, like Berlanga and Munguia. See what happens.
Sure, certainly. Speaking of Berlanga,
they know how to box. I'm sorry.
And speaking of Canelo, this chat is a long time coming. It's really not just about the Berlanga bout. It's about heel Canelo, a character that you created, that you saw through a lot of the A-side Canelo kingisms where we go, man, look at this guy. Number one pound for pound, number one star. He gives us what we want. We're never going to talk again about how he made Triple G weight a year and a half. We're never going to bring up him knocking out Archie Solis's teeth on the Guadalajara sidewalk over a triangle love affair. Man, we're never going to bring up clenbuterol. This guy always gives us what we want, but Rafe was always there to say, no. Hold on. This man is a heel, folks. What do you say about the last 12 months of modern era Canelo, who's like, yo, I ain't fighting Benavidez in this, you know, can't miss biggest fight the sport can make. I ain't fighting Crawford, even though he'd be moving up 3 weight classes in this unique pay-per-view blockbuster. I ain't fighting anybody you tell me to. Hey, Turkey, you can eat your money. I'm going to fight whoever I want I'm going to sell the arena out. I'm going to do major pay-per-view numbers. I'm going to beat the Sphere head to head in some ways. And you're just going to like it. I'm a ginger. Eat me. Because that's kind of what he's saying. You knew it all along.
Look, the Canelo of the last 12 months reminds me a lot of the Canelo who beat Miguel Cotto for the middleweight championship of the world, which is then considered the lineal title, right?
At
Because
155.
yes,
155.
yeah, at Canelo weight, and then went on to defend it against, and Triple G was just sitting there at the hottest point in his career. It just knocked out that Canadian bloke with the hair, David Lemieux.
Lemieux. How dare
Yeah,
you? That
David,
Canadian blow? You kidding me? Lemieux is like the sexiest man alive. You're like, yeah,
yeah,
that guy, right?
like we all fall off. And and instead he's like, I'm not fighting him. You don't tell me who to fight. I'm going to fight Liam Beefy Smith. I'm going to fight Amir Khan coming up 2 divisions for no reason to get knocked out.
Golovkin, you're next,
Yeah,
my
and
friend.
then I'm going to fight Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And then I'm going to, yes, this reminds me a lot of that Canelo. Canelo and I've almost come to accept it. Yes, this is exactly who he is. He may eventually fight, David Benavidez. He may. I kind of think that the Crawford fight is more likely to happen first. I also hope it does because I want that fight for Terence Crawford. I think that the people who count him out and say that Terence Crawford wouldn't be able to be in that fight because he's too small are the same kind of people who thought Usyk could never compete at heavyweight, who thought
True.
that Fury lost to Wilder who the first time, who thought that, they're basically the people who carry whatever the biggest promoter and the biggest star in the sport tells them to. So and every once in a while you're allowed to watch boxing with your own eyes and make your own opinions. That's a fight that I'm very interested in. Canelo should be interested in it too, because that is something that could elevate both. These are 2 of the very best of their generation at any weight class. Canelo doesn't need much legacy boost at this point. But you know what? To his handful of kind of truthers out there who will always nitpick him a little bit like I will, that beating Terence Crawford clean at this stage in both of their careers would mean a lot to me. I would give him a ton of credit for that because it's something I've never seen anyone do. I've never seen anyone come close to him, basically. And Canelo, what does he do? He's like, oh, he makes up an excuse pulls it out of his ass, basically, that, oh, he's too small, I'll never get credit. What do you mean? Anyone who cares about boxing would give him a ton of credit for that.
Yeah, but it doesn't work, Rafe, when he says that. Then
fights, yeah, exactly.
Then he says Benavidez too big with the rehydration clause, can't fight him, even though you already moved up to 75 and knocked out Kovalev. You already moved up to 75 and were decently competitive in a comfortable loss to Bivol, and you're still pushing for that rematch. And you were talking about fighting cruiserweight, Ilunga Makumba. I mean, I know I butchered the name there. What was it?
Makabu.
Yeah, Eric Raskin, former Maccabi Games tennis doubles champion. People forget that. So he just fought Berlanga, who rehydrated, by the way, 25 pounds up to like 193. So aren't all those excuses null and void? So I guess this comes down to, do you believe he is only posturing to get the most possible money out of Turkey, and he plans on doing this, and maybe a reverse of waiting out Golovkin for age, he's waiting out Benavidez's body to grow too big for 68 and then force him to come back? Or is he basically saying what he means? I've accomplished everything already. I'm gonna fuck around, and you guys are gonna find out, and you're gonna have to be happy with that. Which one is it?
¿Por qué no los dos? Why not both? I mean, he can play that both ways. He can sort of wait and see if there is a moment, the same way they played it with Golovkin, wait for a sign of vulnerability. Wait till they see something that makes them think, okay, I got this guy now. Now it's harder to see that coming with Benavidez because the ages are going in the wrong direction, right?
Yeah.
He aged out Golovkin. He can't do that to David Benavidez. But like you said, maybe he gets too big. Maybe he can figure out a way to exploit the weight clause, the weights. Wait for an advantage. Yeah, why not wait? And if you can't, and if it doesn't work out, then he can always walk away and be like, oh, I never intended in the first place. It wasn't worth my time. He's full of shit when he says it, but that's he could very well do that. I hope for our sake that there is enough money in all the world, and all the they pull more, all the oil in the world can pay for Canelo to give us one fight we want before he
It's like, I won't
retires.
drive for a whole month, Turkey. Okay, save the oil, cash it in, pay Canelo. I'm starting to talk myself into, and I'm going to be honest, I don't want to hate Canelo. I don't want to be this guy railing against him, but I got to tell the truth. So maybe I'm hedging that by saying, I hope he's just trying to drive up the Benavidez price to like record levels. Or maybe he's thinking this, and tell me if this is an insane idea. Maybe he's thinking, okay, Better Beef's too big, but he's getting older. Bivol beats him. Then Canelo says, I fight Bivol again. I'm not hurt this time, because the loss did come during that era where he had the left hand injury, that he was delaying surgery and he was not able to train completely. You can argue if that's a real narrative or not. Maybe he thinks, I come back, I beat Bivol. Now I'm the undisputed champion at light heavyweight, and I say, okay, Benavidez, the time is now. But I have all the leverage because I have all the belts, so you're going to fight me here at 175. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it makes some sense. I mean, it's hard to tell exactly what will happen after the Beterbiev Bivol fight. I think that Canelo should be. I think it doesn't sound good to say, oh no, not Benavidez, not Benavidez, not Beterbiev, but maybe Bivol. Like,
Yeah.
try like that level of just pick. And also, it doesn't make much sense because I don't give him a much better chance against the guy who's already beaten him very convincingly than either of those other two fighters, who at least Canelo would be able to land punches against pretty cleanly, which I don't think, Bivol might not give him that chance again. In any case, the timeline you laid out makes some sense, and the Bivol Beterbiev fight is close enough that maybe why not wait and see if you can play it that way. I don't know. I guess, like, if he rematches Bivol at 175, where is that fight going to take place? Who is Canelo going to have in the judges' seats to make sure he wins that fight?
Oh,
Because
how dare you.
I don't know what else he
Wow.
has going for him in that matchup.
Again, I didn't intend to come on here and defend Canelo, but we praise Roy like we should, Roy Jones, for being one of two guys to win a title at 160 and then go up to heavyweight and win it, joining 1800s era Bob Fitzsimmons, right? But Roy had to pick and choose the perfect heavyweight to get that done. But we all accept that, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not fighting Lennox Lewis. He's fighting Andy Ruiz, right? He could have been fighting one-eyed Layman Brewster. He fought Andy Ruiz, right? Or not Andy Ruiz, John Ruiz, sorry.
No, yeah, look, maybe that rise from Roy started the trend that we've seen other great fighters in the next generation continue, where you go up, you rise up the weight classes, but you do it kind of cherry picking the most vulnerable or most favorable matchups. Where, look, they're always going to be championship level fighters, so cherry picking is too harsh, but
yes,
you are being smart about the matchup. Certainly, Floyd managed to avoid many of the fighters who seemed most dangerous to his legacy at the times when they would have been most dangerous. Manny Pacquiao also was matched pretty carefully against guys who seemed like they would be dangerous because they were bigger, but really had no hope to deal with. They can't handle the speed, son. They can't handle the speed.
Bang.
So. And Canelo has done the same thing, and only the really great. I mean, and that is a mark of Canelo's greatness, because it's only been a handful of fighters who've been able to pull that off. They keep going up and they keep managing to beat guys, even if it looks like they have some advantages. Not other fighters don't do that, and it shows.
All right, where are you at right now? If Canelo gave us what we wanted, if he came out press conference, said, I'm staying at 168 and I'm defending my titles against Benavidez, no weight clauses, straight up, mano y mano. How do you actually see that matchup right now?
Oh, it's interesting. So my main takeaway from the Benavidez fight, which I enjoyed, I thought, Benavidez was so game that it made it a fun watch, and he kept Canelo engaged and trying to beat the ever living crap out of him for almost all that fight. He didn't hit cruise control down the stretch like we usually see. But the takeaway I got is that, yes, he can win at this level, but against a lot of guys many guys, Canelo's power isn't going to
Beautiful
be,
guys. Yeah.
yeah, isn't going to be enough to hurt them and get them out, like he had, even though he did it to super middleweights before, we've seen it, right? Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders, like, yes,
Callum.
but there, well, I mean, he made Callum, he made it to the end. You got to give him that, man.
One armed. Yeah, he had one working arm by the end. Yeah.
But he's not, basically he's reaching the limits of where he can, of how high he can fight in weight class, and the ability to know that his power is going to intimidate opponents at that level. Some it will, some he still got it, but there are also going to be guys who just can take it. And Berlanga took a whole lot of it. Bivol, kind of bossed him around the ring, and so there's this, I guess, against Benavidez, who we has not looked very vulnerable, has a very good gas tank, and is going and has that, like, big size advantage. You could see him if he can take Canelo's punch, it's going to be a long night for Canelo with his, perhaps stamina questions now at this stage in his career. It makes the fight something I really want to see. Earlier, a few years ago, when we first started calling for it, or I don't know, people, not me, but when it became a big topic of conversation, I was less excited about it, because I did not see David Benavidez as really in the same class as Canelo talent-wise, which I don't say a whole lot. Like, there's a lot of guys
who don't get beat by a man with titties. I mean, we've heard this before, Bruce Seldon, right?
But if at this point, you can't really deny what, how successful Benavidez has continued to be.
Dude, he's
his
legit.
impressive win over Caleb Plant, and he's
how about
Canelo,
Andrade? Yo, he beat the bags off Andrade.
That is also true. Yeah, a guy who we'd never seen, even, he hadn't fought many people, but it wasn't his fault. And Benavidez, yeah, he went right through him. And so I guess if Canelo can't keep Benavidez honest with the clean punches he's going to land against him, because he will, it won't be hard to find him. But if that doesn't keep him honest, he's going to have a very long night, because, I think that David Benavidez will want to get in that ass.
Wow, under a Saudi moon, hopefully. Riyadh season for days. Remember when Riyadh season was like 4 months long? Now it doesn't end, man. It's a lifestyle choice, I think, right? It's where we are in boxing. Riyadh season.
I suggest you go situate yourself underneath that faucet of money, and then tell me how much you want Riyadh season to end.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I am knocking on a few different doors, hoping that the checks will start clearing and cashing. And yeah, I do love this game, Rafe. This game has given us a lot of fun, a lot of moments. I mean, there's nothing like boxing Twitter, right? I mean, it's still a cesspool of racism and misogyny, but in between that, there's still some top quality blokes, many of them who listen to our channel or listen to us, right? We didn't have a show for a while. We were doing this show in the DMs where it all goes down for a while. But, shout out to the Jackers, right? By the way, I got to tell you this to close here. I called that fight in Dublin, the Callum Walsh card. The dude in the second fight of the night was this young 22-year-old from Ireland named Gareth Dowling. He was making his pro debut, and he fights like a spaz, chin up, just throwing punches, getting lit up, but then eventually knocks the other no-hoper out, right? His nickname is the Jacker. And I almost wanted to tell him in the fighter meetings that, like, dude, I've been following John Fury a long time,
I know what a jacker is.
I'll never jack. I'll never, I'll be there till I can't breathe. He says it's because it's a nickname from his teenage years where
also, this is not going anywhere good.
No, where he fights like a Jack Russell Terrier biting on the ankles, right? Like he's an ankle biter. He's an aggressive rah, like a dungeon dragon, right?
A real ankle grabber.
I hope the Jacker goes somewhere, because that would be it's an ironic name, right? It's fantastic. It's like
we've had Carl the Jackal Frampton, and now we have this guy, the Jacker.
Yeah, that guy. It's not quite the Hispanic causing panic. Remember Juan Lascano, one of the great nicknames of our modern era. There it is. Hey, Rafe, we're back. I think we're back. We might be back.
It's happening.
We're here where we just did the thing. It's great talking to your mustache and you. Can we read your work on Texas Monthly, or just watch the work that you edited?
I mostly just work that I edited. I try not to step into writing too much for them just because it's not in my contract, and also because I'm not a native Texan. I don't feel like I bring the authority that our writers do, but I do my best to make their work shine.
You're no
Um,
Brian Vera.
uh, and Ronnie Shields. I'm working on getting him in the magazine. But you can't read my work. Any of the books I've written, I'm still quite proud of them. Pacific Rim is about
Yes.
Philippine basketball. 2 and 2. What was your old tagline for it?
2 and 2 McSorley's My Dad and You. No, what did I used to
No,
say? I
that's
don't
the
remember.
actual book. Yeah, you can come up with a new one.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Do you have a
anyway,
preference between the light or the dark?
I drink the light now.
Oh, okay. You've transitioned. You used to like the dark meat. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Is that weird? That's probably weird. All right. Hey, it was great
I love
talking to you.
ginger.
Yeah. I love ginger. Rafe, maybe we'll do this again soon. What do you think? Maybe we'll get back together. We'll keep.
Anytime, man. You know how to reach me. I'm here. Just beam me up, and I'm ready to go.
All right. All right, Scotty. That's Rafe Bartholomew. You can follow him at Rafe Boogs on social handles, probably, right? All the social
Yeah,
handles.
close enough.
You don't mess around with that TikTok weirdness, right?
I'm not. I mean, unless we're gonna do the snaps ropes chat there, I'm not playing with it.
Okay. You ever wonder what Zhu Shiming is up to? Speaking of China, no, no, no.
I haven't thought of him in a hot minute.
Yeah,
But yeah, no.
we should
I
do a
like
Where
that
Are
that
They
that
Now?
Thailand guy who fought against him in Macau, though. I'll always have that memory.
We should do a Where Are They Now? We'll find Litzau. We'll find Glenn Tapia, right? We'll find out where all. Do you think all of them have had sad endings? Probably, right? All of our friends.
I bet they're all still thriving on Instagram somewhere. Same with Showtime Curtis Stevens, is probably
Indeed,
still living it up, popping bottles.
that's the guy who was
Freak
that guy
offs
was
every night.
one of the chin checkers, him and Jadon Codrington, right? That's a bygone era of the sport. Hey, we're happy to stir it up and get you excited again. Follow for more here on the Brian Campbell Experience. That's Rafe Boogs on BC. We talked about the box. We're in the box. We kind of put our thing in the box, but now we're out of here. Thank you so much. That's great.